It's crazy how everyone links to my childhood. Feel like Sigmund Freud is sitting here.
Your parents do everything, save every penny to send you to best school.
Yeah, since I was a kid, I did only two things. I watched cricket and I watched Hindi cinema.
So by virtue of how my childhood and upbringing and early life was, I think I just couldn't stay still.
What kind of a kid were you? What did you enjoy doing?
I used to really like stories, to the point where I used to harass my parents daily for a story or I wouldn't sleep.
When I was doing my masters also, I was in England, and while finishing my thesis, I was in Kashmir shooting for a film. So my parents were like, "You're crazy." I said, "Yeah, but you have made me this crazy person."
To me, success was never mediocrity. I didn't have any role model who was having like a good life and doing day-to-day job.
I'm the only child and my parents are working. And whenever they used to be out of the house, I just had to keep myself busy. So I'm actually, now that I think about it, your childhood se hi chal raha hai. Whether it was school or in my house, I just had to do too many things.
Yeah.
So in school, I was the one who was studying, but I was also the one who was doing debating. I was also president of the theatre society. I was also traveling with my school, representing the school on these competitions and stuff. I did everything except art. I was not good at art at all. And then when I moved into college, I did economics, but acting always stayed. I really enjoyed acting. So I always said that I majored in theatre and minored in eco because I was always out of the classroom doing extracurricular. So by virtue of how my childhood and upbringing and early life was, I think I just couldn't stay still. And when it was, the time to actually get a job, do things, when I was doing my masters also, I was in England. And while finishing my thesis, I was in Kashmir shooting for a film. So my parents were like, "You're crazy." I said, "Yeah, but you have made me this crazy person."
It's your fault.
Yeah, it's your fault. And yeah, when the corporate world came, I was like, you know what? The other life I have, I can't leave. So I will do this because it's my bread and butter and this is what I've studied and learned. But the other stuff, which is being in front of the camera, is my passion. I've always done that. And yeah, then I just never stopped. It just kept on happening. And now I think more careers started coming, like content started coming from that. YouTube came from that. I don't know what's going to happen next.
I have to ask you this. If you go back to when you were a kid and looked at the fact that you did so many of those things, were there aspects of that which you feel almost like defined you into the person you are today? Like, I think our childhood defines us.
100% it does. And I think it did because since my parents were busy, I think parents have, now that I understand, parents have the guilt that I am working, my child is at home alone. Yeah. My parents translated that into a very productive way of putting me into classes. So I was doing piano, Casio, Bharatnatyam, theatre, horse riding, all sort of classes that isko class mein dal dete, shayad kuch aa jaye, it might add to her personality.
Yeah.
Theatre stuck with me. I quit everything. By the end of it, I was like, nothing doing. I really like theatre. And the fact that they put me into so many classes is when the multitude of doing too many things also started happening. And my mom is from an entertainment background because she was a journalist. Then she was the director of Antakshari, if you remember the show.
Of course.
Yeah. Then I used to go with her to office again, only child, she had to take care of me. And I used to sit on the edit table for hours with her because she was editing a lot of shows at that time for Z and stuff. So I kind of got a glimpse of that world. And my dad was this banker, finance, analytical, very logical person. So a marriage of the two, I think, trickled down on me.
Yeah.
कि मैं ये भी कर सकती हूँ, मैं मम्मा को मैं ये भी कर सकती हूँ.
Travel become an area for you to create content in.
It's crazy how everyone links to my childhood. This should be like a more of a...
Everything is linked to childhood.
It is linked 100% childhood. I feel like Sigmund Freud is sitting here taking this podcast. But the first job I wanted as a child, which was a planned thing. Everything that has happened in my life has not been planned. There have been influences, like I've said. But the thing that was planned for me was I want to become a travel show host. That was always the case. I grew up not watching cartoons. I grew up watching Anthony Bourdain. I grew up watching Madhur Jaffrey. I grew up watching Rick Stein. I used to watch Musafir Ho Yaro. Deepthi Bhatnagar used to be the host.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I used to watch them, but I used to love it so much that
So
I
good
got so influenced by hosting travel that I always used to say, एक दिन मैं ये बनूंगी, मुझे ये बनना ही है. Then there was an opening in NDTV Good Times for an internship. I didn't know what it was, but I just had to apply and I got that internship. And then I started working with Neha Dikshit, who's a huge host back then. So this was something that was on my books for life. When content creation happened, suddenly tourism boards started coming up and saying, hey, you travel a lot in your personal sphere. We have a project where we want to promote XYZ tourism. Would you like to come on board? It doesn't pay at all. But I realized ये तो मेरा childhood dream था. I cannot say no to this. This is what baby Sahiba always wanted. So I know I've covered travel on my social media, but that childhood dream of having my own travel show still hasn't been cracked. Unfortunately, NDTV Good Times, Travel and Living, they're not producing anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know who is. I think Netflix is only making travel shows. So if any producer or director is watching it, mera dream pura kar do, please.
Since I was a kid, I did only two things. I watched cricket and I watched Hindi cinema. It's the only two things I did while growing up.
What was the first time you got onto stage? There would have been a moment saying, 1 second, I love this. I want to.
I remember that very clearly.
What was it?
I have a picture, in fact, on my desk. I'll try to scan it and send you, but it's not as much as a picture as it's a charcoal drawing by Leonardo da Vinci, because he was alive then. This was when I think I was 3 or 4 years old, perhaps 3, 2, I don't know, some such primary kind of school. I was born in Mumbai, Bombay then, so everybody calm down. I was born in Bombay. This was in school in Bombay, probably somewhere in this area. And it was a fancy dress contest. And I was dressed up as a mobile general store.
Okay.
My mom and dad's ingenuity, it's very clever. So I was wearing like this kurta and pajama. And I had like things they just stitched on things to me. So it was like a toothpaste and chewing gum and a chocolate wrapper and stuff like that. And my mom's sewing kit was here as a cash register. And it said, Aaj nagad kal udhar. And I had to go on stage, I had to lift my arms because there were things dangling from here like lijjat papad and noodles and what all. And I had to go on stage, open my arms like that and twirl and say, I am a mobile general store. Second prize, baby.
Who was first?
I can't remember, man, but he must have been like some Lord Commander or something. I don't know. Must have been some Darth Vader dude, because I don't think you can beat that kind of ingenuity.
That's like a genuine, like also the fact that the arms would come out and you have something there. That seems
I
like
feel like maybe it was the principal's kid who came first or something.
That could have
Nepotism
been.
or some such. But that was one. And I remember doing that the second time I did that, because then we would move to Delhi and hey, why not rehash a good idea, right? So I think I did it for the next class that I did it for that as well. And I remember when I was in the audience, it was bigger, so there was a stage and there was a mic. So the person came and spoke on a mic and it had an orange wind pop. I was obsessed and it magnified your voice.
Yeah.
It was the first time I'd seen a microphone being used. Like I was 4 or 5 years old. I'd never seen it up close, up front, right? Maybe you've seen it on TV or something, but just there. And I remember going up on stage and I got to say my line with that. And I got upset. It was the first time I held the mic.
Yeah.
I was like, I love this.
Yeah.
I will never forget that visual. And I'm so glad you brought it up because I don't think I've thought about this in really long. Yeah. But that image is so vivid in my head. It was a black mic with that orange kind of pop. It's almost like a cone, like a candy kind of thing. You want to bite it. And I was just obsessed with it. I just loved microphones. So I loved being on stage. I loved even when I was in school, college, everything. I just loved doing that.
So how were you when you were like younger than like 10 years old? What kind of a kid were you? What did you enjoy doing?
So, funnily enough, I used to really, really like stories very much. Very much, to the point where I used to harass my parents daily for a story or I wouldn't sleep.
Yeah.
So, mom knew Air Chapel Katha And dad knew some Krishna Putana and Kans Mama Katha. And dad used to tell me with background music, and mom used to say all of that. And I used to love it. They only know these, I don't know why they didn't know more stories, but they just knew these 2 stories. And I kept asking them to like, so after a while they got sick and tired. And they're like, child, this is a book, now don't irritate us. So I started reading and my tiny little brain exploded. And I read every single book, anything, stuff with pictures. Then I graduated stuff without pictures very quickly. And I ran out of things and again started pestering them. And then my parents were like, child, this is movie, now don't irritate us. And again, my tiny little brain exploded because whatever I was imagining was now in front of my face. So it felt like magic. So when I say I genuinely like stories, whether it's in the form of a book or on screen, I actually loved it ever since I can remember. But because we had a nomadic existence, my dad was in aviation. We kept moving around a lot. That was very hard for me because I was, as hard as it to believe, I actually used to be a very painfully shy kid and very introverted. I used to get bullied for liking strange things, wanting to stay inside with a book. I used to have soda putty glasses, so adi game help chale. And I didn't know how to speak to people because all of my best friends were in the books, and because they kept changing and they kept judging me for, I don't know, for not being like them. I was a little too gangly. Because I'm Indian, I was a little too hairy. Still am. But all of these things, I don't know, I never fit in. And my only constant companions were the heroes and the heroines I saw on screen or in my books.
I was not born in a privileged family. I saw my dad going from literally like struggling days where he's incurring like 20,000-30,000 loss per month and really trying to figure out कि क्या मैं business ही continue करते रहूँ कि job करूँगी, like what should I really do, to building like $1 million empire. So to me, going from like not being privileged to privileged, so that role model has been in my house. So I didn't know any other way apart from just going it extravagant. And because so how this is a classic middle class family, okay? How it works. Your parents do everything, save every penny to send you to a best school. Because they didn't get the best education. So they feel education and school is the, key to the success. So sab try karte. So they sent me to the best school. Now in that school, I was the least privileged one. Like my friends, like all my friends, they would come in like Audis, BMWs, Mercedes. My dad would drop me on an Activa. So I'm trying to feel like, yaar, mujhe ye chahiye. Okay. Then the next thing is like most of my friends that my sisters in my house, they're toppers. They've always been toppers, 94, 95%. I was like an average student, 50, 60% max.
Very good. Well, good job.
Right. So school mein, then I tried to play sports, and sports maybe I was not really good. So for me, I always thought that if you want to me, success was never mediocrity. To me, success was never that I didn't have any role model who was having like a good life and doing day-to-day job. I always had role models around me who were getting all the attention, all the money, all the success, all the appreciation which you really need. They're always at the top. So I thought कि अब यही करना है. मतलब अगर तुम्हें लाइफ में थोड़ा सा भी कुछ चाहिए तो तुम्हें out of the box ही hit करना पड़ेगा. Because I saw that happening. I saw that all the kids who were getting attention in my life, they were either rich or toppers or they were like the best sports people. So that's why like I never had, like an average Joe role model around me. And because of that, I was like, I always admired to do something extra. And that extra, maybe because I wanted that, it became my personality.
I find childhood super interesting whenever I talk to any of my guests, right? Because I feel that we are in many ways a reflection of who we were as kids. It's just that we've added on baggage as we've kind of gone along.
Yes.
And what you said, that you've a lot more adventures when you're a kid, and over time, there's, you have life comes along and you suddenly like add in all these pieces. But I feel what also comes from our childhood is that what we innately always wanted to be is what starts off when you're like really young. Did you always want to do what you do?
I remember wanting to be on stage since I was probably much younger than what I remember myself as, because I used to, so I've grown up with my grandparents, everybody knows that, but for the first 9 years of my life, I lived with my parents in Vasai. So we used to have a lot of like extracurricular activities happening all around, especially during Ganpati, or they have some festivals happening around, and then they used to host all these not costume parties, that's what they're called, fancy dress
Fancy dress
competitions,
competition.
or dance competitions or singing competitions, and I used to want to participate in everything. So I was always that person, and even at home I would gather audience and I would say I will be your host for the evening. And I don't remember anything after that, because this is a story my grandmother keeps telling everybody, because she always says this is something she always wanted to do. But I do remember gathering an audience, and I do remember wanting to perform to an audience. I started watching all your Sarigamapas and everything, because my family we love music and we watched everything that had got to do with music. So when I started watching that, and I used to, the Marathi Saregamapa was hosted by Pallavi Joshi, and I would like pretend to be her, and I have done all of those things. So I think I always wanted to do this. I always was a performer at heart, and I always wanted to do this. So I guess it somehow found its way back to me. I was giving my oral exams, okay, English oral exams. And in 6th standard, in our class, we were asked, what is it that you want to be when you grow up? And I had put my hand up because I was a huge CID fan. So I had said, I want to be, and no,
Wait,
I
one
remember.
second. You were watching CID and you wanted to be a CID officer.
Yes.
Well done.
Somehow the acting part of it. No, but the funniest part. So, okay, I'll tell you the story. In that class, she was like, our teacher was like, doctors, engineers, the 3 things that we knew back then that we could become. And she was like, okay, is there anything else that I have missed out on? And I confidently said, yes, I want to be a CID officer. And I had no idea why she remembered it. Next year, when I was giving my oral exams, when this stage has happened to me, and I was like, okay, now I want to be an actor because this is fun. And I have gone to that oral exam, and at the end of it, she was like, I hope that you are able to do what you, plan on being. And I said, yeah. So she said, you remember what you had said? Do you know what you said when I asked you what you wanted to be? And I said, I want to be an actor, because at that point in time, that was taking over. And I could see the disappointment on her face.
CID officer.
Yes.
Actor.
And she was like, no, but you said. And I said, oh, that's correct, because I had conveniently forgotten about it. So I could see the disappointment on her face, on my teacher's face, when I said acting. So I think
Like Mithila darwaza tod.
मिथिला ने वो तोड़ दिया hopefulness का दरवाजा. But so essentially that is where I was at, right? Like in my heart, I always knew this is what I wanted to do.